This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1725. Comic Talk! I'm Chris Everly.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Ian Levinstein. Woo-ha.
Ian, I heard your voice at the end there. I got chills.
Oh, it's just that NPR voice I just love putting on.
I'm a big NPR fan, my friend. You just titillated me a little bit. If you were a woman and I wasn't married, holy mackerel!
And this episode, we are sponsored by viewers like you and the letter C. How's everybody doing tonight,
gentlemen? I love when we
gentlemen?
get a little creepy. That was fantastic.
Thank you. How's everybody doing tonight?
Because creepy, creepy, creepy starts with C.
Now that I'm with you, gentlemen, I am just fine. It's been a long day, as is often the case in the life of a middle-class family man. But it's good to be here in my basement office cave and communing with both of you.
Hear, hear.
How about you, Mert?
Seconded?
Well, you're not in the cave. You're on the second floor.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I'm in the loft. The granary.
Mert, I trust it's comfortable where you're stationed right now.
Well, yes. It's well, for the moment anyway. The barn is heated by a very old-fashioned heating and ventilation system. It's at least a half-century old.
Of course.
There is a gigantic, like 40-inch tall metal box of a heating unit right above my head. It's got the Fedders logo stamped on it. It's gas-powered, and I'm kind of obliged to turn it off whenever I'm recording here, because otherwise we'd be hearing all kinds of roaring and clanking and banging and whooshing. And that doesn't make for good radio.
But I trust you're not too frigid, brother.
Not yet.
All right. Well, we won't belabor too long, so we don't want you to become a popsicle by the end of this recording.
That's all right. We've got a hard stop built into this one, so
indeed,
I'll be fine.
True to that.
Brother, it's always good to rally around the campfire for a casual, freewheeling comic talk.
My fave.
So as listeners know, anything and everything come up, I should say, in this format, comic-related or otherwise.
Well, shall we begin with something fairly timely then?
Sure.
Please, go for it.
Did you guys see the Academy Awards ceremony the other night?
I did.
Bits and pieces.
And, well, it was a night of interest to comic book fans because for the first time a comic book-derived movie was up for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Sure was. And it won 3 Oscars, if I remember correctly. Costumes, which was that was a no-brainer. My God.
Yep.
I think production design also a no-brainer,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say score. I think
That is correct. Yep, best original score.
And well, I didn't expect Black Panther to win Best Picture. The fact that it was nominated, and I mean, it had August Company up there, was a real thrill. And, the film, let's face it, the film was a cinematic and cultural phenomenon in 2018. So it deserved that nomination for that reason alone. Plus, I just thought it was a damn good movie and a tremendous adaptation of the essence of that character.
Very true.
And I think in some ways even more exciting was one of the best Marvel movies ever made won Best Animated Oscar.
Yes.
Yep. Into the Spider-Verse.
Well deserved. Well deserved. Pretty much nothing. The only other thing on that list for best animated that I would have been okay winning would have been the Japanese animated film that was there. But the rest were all either sequels or just nothing amazing. And I'd say Into the Spider-Verse was amazing, spectacular, and Web of all rolled into one.
Look at
Even Todd McFarlane adjectiveless.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this, though, Ian. Did you see Isle of Dogs?
I did, yes, and that is very, very well done. Yes,
loved Isle of Dogs.
Yeah,
loved it.
Brian Cranston.
I'm on board with.
Brian Cranston's especially good in that.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
Mert, what'd you think of Isle of Dogs?
I didn't see it. That's why I was asking.
Okay, Mert, I think you'd love it.
But yes, it's one that I wanted to see, but I didn't get around to. I also would have very much liked to see Black Klansman, except that did not find its way into theaters anywhere in Cape May County, New Jersey, this past summer. So,
yeah, I'm a big Spike Lee fan, and I'll catch that on one of the streaming services because I usually enjoy his films thoroughly. And this actually the star I didn't realize initially was Denzel Washington's son.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big fan of the acting of Adam Driver. So
yeah,
and he was nominated too.
Black Klansman is very well done.
You saw it?
I did. Yes, I saw all but Green Book and Roma. Those are the only two that I had not seen of the Best Picture. Normally, I go to what's called the Best Picture Showcase that AMC puts on every year, where they just go ahead and over a 2-week period, they show every film that's nominated. But slightly out of protest, this year I did not because they chose not to show Roma. Because
it's a Netflix film.
Exactly.
Right.
And I felt like I wasn't going to get my bang for my buck if I was only seeing 7 out of the 8. So I decided not to, and I certainly plan on seeing Roma. I have much less inclination to see Green Book just because of the politics behind it. But I will probably see it eventually just to understand why it won. But I enjoy Black Klansman a lot. I really enjoyed The Favorite. That was, I heard The Favorite was tremendous. No pun intended, that was my favorite. Of the bunch. Absolutely superb. Bohemian Rhapsody was a fantastic performance from Rami Malek, and the rest of it was just a straightforward biopic. So I was a little bit underwhelmed. And I feel like I'm missing one there. Oh yeah, and obviously Black Panther's Black Panther. So that's beside the point. So that was fantastic and very much deserved to be nominated for Best Picture. Yeah, I really want to see Green Book. I want to see all these films because unlike previous years, I've only seen a couple of the movies that were nominated. Yeah. But Green Book, I realize there's a lot of political controversy around it. The whole sort of driving Miss Daisy approach to racial issues in cinema. Right. But I really, admire the 2 lead actors in that film. Same here. Yeah. So, for that reason alone, I definitely want to give it a view, and then make my judgment accordingly. But I know this isn't a film podcast, so I'll end it with this. It's our hill. Oh no, I know. Beans. No, I know. I would have been 100% okay with Green Book had they just simply contacted the damn family. They didn't even do that. They didn't even take the courtesy to ask the family of the musician in question that Mahershala Ali is playing about his own history. They only went by what the driver experienced, and he was only with him for 18 months, and he was fired. And yet, this was his portrayal of the man, and it was very much not the man that actually existed from every thing that I've heard. That can maybe explain to some degree, besides what I mentioned before about the cinematic history is the controversy. But again, that's so typical of Hollywood films. Absolutely. Whether you're talking about a comic book adaptation or an adaptation of history, they always twist things around. And it's interesting because when they do that, here, let's bring it back to comics for a second. Let's go back to the Ben Affleck Daredevil film. Oh, God. And I remember when I went to see that film in the theater, obviously I was very excited, being a huge Daredevil fan.
The minute they didn't have him save the blind man crossing the street, and they didn't make that actually the reason why he lost his sight. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So I remember watching the movie. I'm like, why did they do that? Like there was no – like what often strikes a lot of these film adaptations, whether comics, history, novels, what have you, is sometimes you understand why they make a certain change. It makes sense for the narrative or the pacing or whatever it might be. Other times, like, why was that done? Like there was no reason for that. Like it didn't – I'm always baffled when that happens.
Sure.
I'm whatever the politics are behind the scenes, but – that's. I'm glad you brought that up, Ian, because I wasn't aware of that aspect of the story.
Yeah.
So, you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is why Ian is such a valued member of our cast right out of the gate, because he brings vital intelligence the rest of us may not be privy to.
I also would have enjoyed had they actually performed All the Stars, the best original song that was nominated for Black Panther. That one did not make it into the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have exciting movies on the horizon in the comic book world this year. I mean, next month we have it's almost next month, Captain Marvel, which I'm stoked for that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize Annette Bening is playing the Supreme Intelligence.
Really?
Yes, one of my favorite actors. So, I mean, she's not a big green floating head with Rasta hair. She's a humanoid, but very excited for that. And then, of course, Captain Marvel, or Shazam as they're calling it. And then the end-all be-all, Avengers. So
it's going to be a good year. Spider-Man after that. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of good comic book movies to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Somewhere in the middle there's Detective Pikachu. New trailer came out today.
Oh, I didn't catch that yet. I'll have to watch that once we're done.
That's real? I thought that was a joke by Ryan Reynolds.
No, that is a movie, Chris. It's a live-action Pokemon movie, and a few of us are very excited for it.
I'm one of them.
You're surrounded, Chris.
No, hey, it is Ryan Reynolds, right?
Yes.
It is, as the voice of Detective Pikachu.
I would just see it because he's in it. I mean,
yeah.
Come on. I know next to nothing about Pikachu, but I can learn.
Yeah, talk to Bill and Danny. They're psyched for it.
Well, I mean, they're among the flocks of people you see wandering around, open areas, like trying to hunt down these things with their phones. I don't really understand it, but I'm antediluvian.
I'm not sure if you're aware, Chris. I used to work for Pokemon, so this is
Really? I didn't know. Ian, more of your secret origin, please.
I was a contractor for them. I worked as their screenshot guy for a bunch of their strategy guides. So I would play through the games and then take screenshots of the DS games, which would then wind up in the full strategy guides that Pokemon would put out. Was this a side job, or was it your full-time job at this point? It was my full-time job at times, and at other times it was my side job. But I did it until they closed their New York office, and that was actually why I was out in Seattle for a short time, which is when the last time Adam Murdo was at Emerald City Comic Con. We met up and had dinner because that was the short while that I was living on the West Coast. How long did you live there? Only for about a 6-month period. Okay. Yeah, I actually, funny enough, I moved there right after Thanksgiving and moved back right before Super Show. Because I remember that was pretty much the first thing I did when I went back was head out to Super Show. And it was a very interesting experience. I got my name into a bunch of strategy guides. So if you buy like the Diamond and Pearl era and Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you'll see my name in a bunch of screenshots. You'll see Raph's name in a couple screenshots. Just because I was able to put the names of anybody I really wanted in there as the names of traders that I was trading stuff with. So most definitely did that. Man, Ian. First of all, your devotion to the show is always commendable. The fact that you would write to Super Show, but you're just more colorful and eclectic by the moment, my friend. I try. Damn. Well, Ian, but let's segue a moment because I wanted to bring this up with you as to further compliment you. Thanks to your recommendation, I read the first 2 issues of Marvel Unlimited of the Immortal Hulk. Oh, great! And let me tell you something. Again, I can get pretty jaded sometimes with, some of the corporate properties and the never-ending, the fact that
you always know that they're going to be around, or at least in the foreseeable future, and that for me that diminishes the enjoyment of some of the stories sometimes. But then you get a comic like this that thoroughly rejuvenates my love and my faith in the characters, the concepts of the Marvel Universe. When I read the first issue, the grin in my face was so broad, a Cheshire cat would have been envious. Let me tell you something. You talk about just getting down to the essence of what makes the Hulk a compelling character and a terrifying concept. And because ultimately the Hulk is his legacy is the monster characters of the Atlas era, essentially. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, and Frankenstein and so forth. And it's Al Ewing, right? Is that the writer?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. He goes right back to that source in a way I haven't seen in years. And it's so compelling. I don't want to spoil it too much for people who haven't read it yet or listening, but it's so compelling. And like you said, Ian, there's such great tips of the hat to the whole sort of universe of the Hulk, let's say. Like, they mentioned McGee, the investigative reporter who was trying to prove that the Hulk, is still around. And, Bruce Banner kind of wandering around. I actually heard like the 70s theme in my head from the TV show as I was, reading the first two issues. The masterful sort of one and done approach in issue 2. I've only read the first 2 issues, but which again, many writers can't seem to pull off anymore effectively. Boy, does Ewing do that effectively. Sorry, I used the word effectively 3 times in a sentence. That's terrible. But anyway, and again, I've always been a fan of Joe Bennett's artwork. Never better here. His Hulk is so frightening. Like in that first issue when you're in that biker gang hangout and the huge green hands come bursting through the wall remind me of the great Steranko rendering of the Hulk back in the classic Silver Age Captain America issues he appeared in. I will be devouring the series, whatever issue, because I'm way behind. So whatever issues they put up online and then from there. But without question, one of the most exciting books Marvel's producing right now. So, just from the first 2 issues I read.
So glad you enjoyed it and so glad you read it.
Oh, I'll be reading issues 3 and 4 tomorrow during my enormously tedious lunch duty at school. So, yeah, man, because I think they only have 1 through 4 up online so far.
Yeah.
But I meant to ask, because I'm really new to Marvel Unlimited. What's the lag time between when a book debuts in the stands and it appears on the site? Because I didn't know.
It's about 6 months.
6 months,
yeah,
okay.
Give or take. Sometimes you'll see things show up a little bit earlier than that, but in general, it's about 6 months.
Well, I haven't done much digital comic reading because I'm such a still a fan of the traditional format. But again, when money comes into play, and I can't buy all the books I'd like to read, it's just too much. But I may be switching to this, not for everything, but more and more because. Especially for stuff I want to catch up on. And when something as exciting as Immortal Hulk, I'll probably go right for the trades once I'm done with whatever they have online because I want to read these stories that badly. I want to devour the series. I want to be like a foreign animal just wallowing with glee in like the mud. That's again what it just shows what comics can still do. Tremendous.
And just for a bit of comparison, they just put up Avengers number 6, and that was published on August 22nd. So that'll tell you about what the lead time is for Unlimited.
Well, if you guys don't mind me hogging for a moment because you just gave me another nice segue.
No, go ahead.
I just caught up on Avengers. I just read the last 3 issues. I think it was 11, 12, and 13. And Mert, did you nominate Avengers?
I did. Yes. Best ongoing,
and deservedly so because. What Jason Aaron is doing in that title, for me, he's returning to the sheer greatness of the Avengers and how powerful and important they are in the Marvel Universe. For Pete's sakes, their headquarters now is the corpse of a Celestial. Wait, hold on, the Celestials, and what Aaron gets so well is not only the epic scope of the team, but also the necessity of reminding us that they are individuals and that they have. lives and how important their interpersonal dynamic is. He never lets that go. Some Avengers stories can get so epic you kind of lose the characters depending on who's writing the book over the years. But this, he has a perfect balance. Let me tell you something. Issue 12, Agents of Wakanda. So what's wonderful here is that Aaron just gets the essence of the Black Panther, because the Black Panther is now the chairperson of the Avengers. So it's vintage T'Challa. He goes, all right, so we got the Avengers, but we really need a support infrastructure to do all the dirty work for the main teams. We can kind of put the team where it needs to be, but we need these other agents to get them to that point. So he assembles this fantastic sort of menagerie of lesser is not the right term, but let's call them not marquee characters who are going to do sort of all like the intelligence gathering, the espionage, so the Avengers can fully carry out their missions. It is so perfectly captures the essence of what the Black Panther is all about, and just makes perfect sense that he's doing this now when he's running the Avengers, because that's something he would do. I mean, and I won't go into too much again, not to spoil, but it's such a perfect way to use the Black Panther in the Avengers, and I'm just loving that title. And that's not a book I'll be waiting for digitally. I'll be getting that every month in paper format because I cannot wait.
Well, I look forward to catching up on that. I have to start that series, which I am very much looking forward to. I have the first trade digitally, so I'll be reading through that soon, and we'll certainly want to catch up the minute that they do a sale on Comixology, because they often do for more recent stuff for 99 cents a pop, and I might be a week or two, a month or two behind when that happens, but I'll always be pretty close. And
last thing, and then I'll stop hogging. It's on my mind. I noticed several people in the forums were talking about a book I was not familiar with called The Highest House. And I think Eric Nolan Weatherden mentioned it. Some other listeners, they said, this should have been nominated. So, all right. So I went online to check it out. I didn't realize it was written by Mike Carey, which that's reason enough. And his the co-creator is the artist. I want to say, is it Peter Gross? The guy I did the book Unwritten with. And when I saw that team and I read the concept, I went in stock trades and ordered the trade immediately. So, once I get that, I'll read it, then I can talk about it on the air, because, when people whose opinions I respect on the forums are saying, like, this book is like one of the best books of 2018, that piqued my interest. Then when I saw who was actually involved in the book, I was like, oh, God, I'm derelict in my duty here. So I'll be talking about that down the road.
Can you give us a sneak preview of the premise, Chris?
I don't have it in front of me. If I remember correctly, it is about – it's like a subtle alternate future of, like, is it 16th century or 15th century, the Balkans, something like that, where there's like a society where it's built on slavery, and like the overlords of the society kind of live in like the pinnacle of it. And it follows these two characters, one who's like a young slave, and the other, I may be butchering this because I don't have it in front of me. The other is like this mysterious prisoner in like the stronghold of the overlords, and how their relationship leads to sort of upheaval in this society. So I did not do it good justice there, but from what I read, and from who's involved in it, this is a book I have to read as soon as possible.
You're not too far off, Chris, with your description.
Terrific.
I'm looking at the official description for Highest House #1 right now. As you stated, the creators behind The Unwritten, Mike Carey and Peter Gross, invite you into the Highest House, the story of a slave boy named Moth who makes friends with a powerful entity called Obsidian that promises advancement and happiness. Clearly, Obsidian has a hidden agenda, but Moth has ambitions and plans of his own.
Well, did either guys read Unwritten?
Oh, I never finished it, but I've read about 3/4 of it.
You know what, Ian? I'm exactly in the same boat you are. I read about 3/4 of it. But I loved it. What did you think of it?
Oh, it was one of my favorite series as it was coming out. Yeah. I gave up around the quote unquote crossover with Fables. That's around where I stopped reading, and I still have the issues lying around that I should get back to someday. But I loved it as it was coming out. Yeah.
Me too. So. The people recommended it. The description, the creators. I mean, I'm going to be reading certainly the first trades, and I believe it's an IDW publication, correct?
Highest House is IDW, yes.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because when people, so a lot of people were talking about it on the forums, so I felt I got to give this a read.
Well, it's actually a good, an even gooder segue. Yes, I intentionally used the word gooder into IDW as a big amount of comic news came out this week that Usagi Yojimbo is jumping ship to IDW.
Wow.
For years, it's been with Dark Horse.
Yes.
And Stan Sakai is moving it over to IDW with a new number 1. And it's starting off with a 3-part story set in Edo period Japan. It's back in the same house as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles now for the first time in years. I
am ashamed to say I've never read one issue of that book.
I've read at least 2.
Okay. And I've heard nothing but good things. I mean, I'm obviously a huge fan and student of feudal Japanese history. Mm-hmm. And I think Brian Deemer's always praised Usagi Yojimbo, if I remember correctly.
Yep. He absolutely has.
And if we're here, he'd probably be, reprimanding me verbally as only he can in his singular way. So, that's any reason. They give any reason why? I'm feeling bad for Dark Horse. They've lost Star Wars. They've lost Conan. And now they've lost Usagi Yojimbo. So, any background news on that, Ian? Or
nothing that I can really see. I think it might just be as simple as he wanted it to be in the same house as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles again, because back in the day, Usagi Yojimbo did do crossovers with the Turtles.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So, in fact, actually, if I remember correctly, Usagi showed up in the 80s animated series.
Oh, you absolutely do remember.
Oh, wow.
And there was even a Playmates Usagi Yojimbo and Space Usagi action figure.
Nice.
Merv, clutch on the toy history. Bravo, brother.
Well, yes, that's now Matt and I at that phase in our late childhood were very, very keyed into that sort of thing, those developments.
Somewhere Raphael Suhu is smiling, just even with the reference to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But
I hope so.
No. So that may very well be the reason, Chris. It's not entirely given in the press release, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. All right. Well, I hogged enough, gentlemen. What else do you guys want to talk about?
Well, I have a shout out to an old forum buddy.
Please.
Mr. Sean Wheatley, otherwise known as Left Coast Love. Sent me some love via message a day or two ago, just, welcome me onto the show and just let me know that he's been enjoying the show recently and is back on he's always been a listener, but he's been listening more regularly of late. So I just wanted to give a shout out there to somebody we've known and loved in the Comic Geek Speak community for a while. He doesn't post on the forums so much anymore, but Sean and I have had many a conversation over the years, and happy to see that he's still around and that he's given us praise. So just wanted to give a shout out there.
Well, that's much appreciated. And we also have to remember that we have so many little listeners who never post on the forums, but that doesn't mean that we don't appreciate their dedication to the show.
Absolutely.
So
I'm very happy to hear that we still have Sean among our listeners. I haven't heard from him in a very long time. But I do recall that for a while there, he had a cross-country aerial commute.
Yep.
And our podcast was one of the things he used to use to pass the hour's worth of flight time he had to fill up. So even if that's not his work situation at the present time, I'm glad he's still finding some time to listen to us.
He's been doing that a little bit more lately. He has I know that he has a client that takes him from his left coast location over to the New York area, somewhat not very often, but occasionally. And I know we almost met up one time. He was in New York City, but didn't quite line up. So hopefully it'll happen the next time. So would not surprise me if he's still using that as podcast opportunity.
Terrific.
I've
actually, Murd, you got something you want to shoot out?
Oh, sure, might as well. Most of my comic reading is of a slightly older vintage than what we prefer to talk about here on the show. Save that for the Time Bubble spinoff. But I did get something out of my most recent discount comic book service shipment that I decided I'd bump to the top of the to-read pile. It came in trade form, so that makes it easier for it to jump the turnstile, as it were, and get right up to the top. It's the first traded volume of Southern Bastards.
Oh,
yes.
Jason Aaron, Jason Latour.
Oh, Murd, I'm envious of that journey.
Yeah, it's off to a rollicking, rocky start. So it collects the first 4 issues of that series, and it's one of those budget-priced initial the kind of an initial hook, a loss leader for Image to just only the first hit is cheap, as it were, which is a good marketing plan, I've always thought. It cost only $9.99 cover price. Which through DCPS was only like $5 in some sense, and certainly the amount of enjoyment I got out of the trade was worth that much to me. Now tell me, guys, do you know if that series is officially concluded? Because having done a little background reading, I found that the last issue of that was number 20, which was published nearly a year ago.
I think it's on hiatus.
I want to say yes to hiatus because I've read every issue, and granted, it's been a while. I don't, and if someone could correct me if I'm wrong on the forums, I feel like the book was not formally ended.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make an educated guess. Considering all the work Aaron's done for Marvel, maybe he had to put it on the back burner for a little while. I don't know.
Yep.
But believe me, Mulmer, what'd you think of it?
Well, it did kind of have me at the edge of my seat. I mean, it's fine. Well, it would have if I hadn't been reading it in bed, I should say. But yeah, it's good Southern fried crime and suspense. It's the tale of a grizzled old Vietnam vet who returns after an extended absence, running up to about 40 years, to his home area of Craw County, Alabama, a place he swore he'd never return to. He left it years ago to get away from his troubled relationship with his father, the ex-sheriff. And he's just lived the rest of his life in the faraway big city of Birmingham, Alabama. Finally goes back there to clean out his old family home, and gets immediately sucked into there's just a powerful gravitational pull to the area in which one grew up. And not everyone is able to escape that pull. Not everyone even really tries. But he goes back there. He finds that it's even more corrupt and violent, and just there's something very dirty going on in Craw County. And so he finds himself kind of inexorably drawn into his father's legacy, his father's role as order keeper and lawman. And I'm saying most of this for the benefit of the listeners, of course, who might not have read the series.
Indeed.
But there's that one moment fairly near the end of the first arc where there's a twist of fate just fraught with Arthurian symbolism, in which he realizes that it's pointless to continue resisting. He has to take up his father's work of trying to clean up this one-horse county from the dark forces that are – and when I say dark, I'm not talking about anything supernatural or demonic. I'm just talking about base human problems, specifically southern United States human problems, because this is written very much as a meditation by both Jasons, Aaron and Latour, on the complex and conflicted feelings of love and hate, devotion and repulsion that they feel about the American South, where they both grew up. So that they're writing as Southern natives. I'm reminded of the words that Southern writer Carson McCullers once spoke, saying that she had to periodically return to the South just to, as she put it, renew her sense of horror. And that's kind of what Aaron and Latour are doing vicariously through this series. So here we find the main character, Earl Tubb, embracing this sense of horror and taking up arms against it in the end. But then there's this magnificent twist, and you guys both know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
This received a lot of attention from the voters in our Best of 2014 awards. Hard to believe that was 4 years ago now. But yeah, the big twist at the end of the first arc suddenly sends the rest of the story off in a different and unexpected direction. It's like a Game of Thrones Season 1 kind of twist. And so it's it leaves me wondering what's going to happen next. I assume that we're going to get in the next arc is going to be, well, was called when it was first published, Gridiron. That's the title of the second trade, and which is a reference to the importance of football to life and culture in the American South, especially in the small town rural areas. And it's certainly central to life in fictitious Craw County. And so I guess what I'm going to see in the next trade, which a lot of people have already seen because it's been out for a few years, I guess we'll be seeing an exploration of Craw County. It's a clever choice of name because craw means like a digestive organ found in certain animals. So when the main character goes back there, he's figuratively entering the belly of the beast. So I guess now we get to see said beast belly from the point of view of its residents and see it explored more or less in their terms, kind of a bastard's eye view of what this place and then life there is like. But it's not something I was I'm happy to say that I was able to suppress my memories of that big twist at the end of the arc, which was nominated for Best Cliffhanger or Moment of 2014. I remembered vaguely the nature of the twist, but I didn't remember which characters were involved in it. So it still came as something of a surprise to me. And you notice I'm being careful here not to divulge the specific nature of the twist, just for the benefit of those who, like me, haven't come around to reading the story in its entirety yet. But it was very suspenseful. It's just dripping with local color. I'm fascinated by this dark world peopled by its one hopes somewhat exaggerated characters. I would like to read a little bit more, but I will say that the twist, as well thrilling and unexpected as it was, also creates kind of an ideal jumping off point. Should I have chosen not to read any further. But you know what? I'm interested enough in this world that I think I will come back, at least for the second trade, which is also cover price $9.99. So if I happen to find that, if it's offered through DCBS at the usual, generous discount, or if I find it at a con or something, or find single issues at the con, I definitely want to read just a little further at least.
Oh, Mert, I highly recommend you do. I mean, the book is brutal. I mean, I don't, let's not beat around the bush when it comes to that. I mean, I can't do any better than the magnificent and, masterful critique you just gave. But
sure.
When it comes to discussions of sort of legacy and how choices you make that can haunt you for the rest of your life and how they can affect, the people that come after you. I mean, this story takes that head on. And as you mentioned, and this is you can't overstate this, at the core of this world that Aaron has created is football. And because one of the main characters is the high school coach, who's almost treated like a demigod, essentially, in the community. And just, the consequences for different people in the town because of the place the team and the coach has in that community. I think it's one of Aaron's best works, and that's saying something because I love pretty much everything the man has done. So definitely check it out. And I think Ian is right, and someone corrects the forums if we're wrong. I'm pretty sure the book is not done yet.
It's not, yeah. Jason Aaron has tweeted as much, saying that that he's definitely has a lot more to come on this. It's just, I think, like you said, Chris, he has other obligations at the moment that take priority, but he will definitely be returning to this when the opportunity arises. And Murd at the moment on Amazon Volume 2 is only $5.79.
Huh.
So maybe
can't get much better than that.
Exactly. Maybe worth getting sooner than later.
Yeah,
and
so.
Ian, is there anything there about Southern Bastards being optioned for television?
I had heard about that at some point.
I thought I had too. Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't heard any further developments on it. So
because
it might
on the
be
right network, it would make a hell of a TV show.
Oh, yeah.
If they don't kind of go milquetoast on it and really go right to the essence of it and don't compromise the spirit of the story, it could be I get
the feeling
compelling.
that right network would be AMC.
Or FX, because from the looks of things, that's who was developing it. I don't know whether or not it's gone anywhere since, but back in 2015, FX were the ones to pick up the rights.
Okay. Well, Mert, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I love that book. Oh, it's so good.
As our friend Rainbow Cloak used to say, I got a little south in my mouth.
and because of you mentioning Game of Thrones, all I can think of now is King of the South.
Okay, here's the thing about Game of Thrones, because I'm so late to that party. I finally started watching that show over the summer.
Wow.
So I got the season 1 reference. I'm only in the midst of season 3 right now.
Okay.
So I have a long way to go, and I'll probably watch more of it this summer when I have more time. Because I just get little bits and pieces right now. But plus, right now I'm focusing on actually. If you guys don't mind, let's talk about The Punisher a little bit on Netflix.
Sure. Yeah. You can go right ahead.
Yeah, because I'm through episode 6. I almost said issue. Episode 6 of the newest season. Of course, as we know, Netflix has canceled Punisher, and Jessica Jones get one more season. And they're going to cancel that show as well. I guess they're victims of the streaming wars, so to speak.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. John Bernthal, that man is one hell of an actor.
He is.
And I actually heard an interview with him just recently on Mark Maron's podcast, WTF. It's a fantastic interview. They go through his whole life and how he became an actor, and but listening to him talk about himself, you realize he completely changes his voice to play the Punisher. Like his actual regular speaking voice is nothing really like that at all. And you just further appreciate what a hell of an actor the guy is. I mean, I've seen him in a variety of movies, Fury, Wolf of Wall Street, Sicario, Wind River, so forth. He's a tremendous actor, but the way he captures Frank Castle, and what he does so wonderfully is he balances really the humanity and the pathos of the character with how incredibly brutal he is. And you guys haven't watched season 2 yet, correct?
No, and I haven't even finished season 1, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not going to spoil anything at all then. But like I said in a previous discussion, in the first episode of season 2, they give you a moment where you think he might actually find, like, quote, a regular life and actually be happy. And for reasons that are not even his doing, it's all wrenched away from him. And then they take you on that journey. But it's such a captivating show. And I read a quote from Jerry Conway, the co-creator of The Punisher, where he's lauding Bernthal's depiction of the character. And I'd love to be able to ask Bernthal, like, which Punisher comics, there's so many Punisher comics now, did you read? Like, what did you take away from those comics when you decided your interpretation of the character? Because he so fleshes out Frank Castle. I mean, and the best Punisher comics do that. Some are kind of, more one-dimensional shoot-'em-ups, but the best Punisher stories really go into the meat of and the guts of the man, like especially some of the Garth Ennis stuff. And you so see that in the show. And there are scenes, like there's one scene without giving it away, where he has to go into he's going into a place where there's a lot of Russian mobsters, and he doesn't even have a gun. And even though he doesn't have a gun, just the way he acts as the character, these men are all totally screwed. And, again, they don't spare any depiction when it comes to just the brutality of the world of the Punisher. Because, again, there's no superpowers involved, even though he's in the Marvel Universe. It's just this man, his skills, and his just unbreakable will. And his ability to just absorb enormous amounts of punishment, no pun intended. It's tremendous. I can't recommend it enough.
Well, I'm hoping that Hulu will wind up stepping in and saving these shows.
Have you heard any talk about that? Or
they've made subtle reference to it. They haven't confirmed anything because I don't think they can yet. But considering the deal with the adult animation coming to Hulu, which we've discussed about on the previous Comic Talk, it wouldn't surprise me if Hulu is where these land. But nothing is anywhere near official yet. They probably have a lot of legal stuff to work out since Netflix technically, I think, has at least a year or two after canceling these shows where they say that these characters cannot show up elsewhere. But I'm sure if they throw enough money Netflix's way, they might be able to get around that. So,
I hope so, because my feeling is that all of those shows still have stories to tell.
Oh, yeah.
Luke Cage, especially. I mean, the way that the season 2 of that show ended. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything.
Iron Fist season 2 ended spectacularly.
Say it again?
Iron Fist season 2 ended spectacularly.
So let me ask you. So you watched Iron Fist season 2?
I did, yes.
And without spoiling it for Murd, I thought the show improved in leaps and bounds.
Yes.
In the second season.
I would agree with you.
And I was really, stoked for hoping for to continue that story. So I hope we see that. Plus, I'm such a huge fan of the actress who portrays, both of them, Misty Knight and Colleen Wing. I want them to have their own show as Daughters of the Dragon, basically. Yep. I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon, but I really enjoyed the second season of Iron Fist.
It was very, very good. Yeah, especially the way it ended, very much going into the territory of what Fraction and Brubaker had set forward.
Well, that's exactly. Yeah. That's why I'm so excited, Ian, is that, okay, now they're going into that aspect of Iron Fist's publication history, which for me is some of the strongest stories the character's ever been part of. Yep. So I'm really excited. I hope they bring all this stuff back. I mean, we still have a season of Jessica Jones to enjoy when that debuts later in the year.
Yep.
But one thing I always find interesting, though, it seems like there's a conscious decision to not have these characters really interact with the rest of the MCU, even though they're part of it. Do you know anything about that in terms of media talk or
simple politics? From what I have learned and from what has been said, Marvel Television is one thing and Marvel Cinematic is another thing. And Marvel Television still falls under the reign of Ike Perlmutter, while Marvel Cinematic runs under Kevin Feige.
Wait, Perlmutter's still around?
Perlmutter is still around, yes.
I didn't know that.
Perlmutter does not have a day-to-day say. However, he still is his name is still on there. Let's put it that way.
And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't he associated with the near destruction of the company?
Yes. And yet he still has money. And that's really all it takes. He's still an executive at Marvel. That much has not changed. When they were purchased by Disney, he went along with them. And,
okay, I didn't know that. All right.
And that was one of the main points of frustration for Kevin Feige, and why Cinematic split so heavily from TV, because comics and TV were under Perlmutter, and Cinematic is under Feige. And Feige can do whatever he wants because he's the moneymaker. TV, not so much. It makes money, sure, but nowhere near what Cinematic is doing for Marvel.
Well, how could it? You can't. That's not even a fair comparison.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
All right. I didn't realize that. Thank you for that political insight.
Yeah.
And because, for example, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I've dropped off of, I haven't watched that show in quite some time, even though I enjoyed it. It's just, again, as I get older, I just have less and less time to watch television.
Right.
That'll probably change when, I'm older still and my kids are out of the house. Isn't it strange how, as you get older and decay, then you get more freedom, supposedly? But anyway, have you watched that? Is anybody? I don't want to be keeping up with that show.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm very, very far behind on, but technically a Marvel show that I can touch on, that I am up to date on, which I'm actually pretty sure neither of you are, is Gotham.
Gotham.
Yep.
The DC show?
No, I'm sorry. What am I talking about? Yes, why did I say Marvel? Yes, DC. That's what I've been watching of late. I've been watching Gotham of late. I haven't been watching any of the Marvel shows. I need to catch up on that. I don't know why I said that. That's clearly a brain fart on my end.
Ian, take it from one of the premier monarchs of brain farting. You're fine, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I had it on the brain, and that's why I went there, because I was thinking of how Gifted is under Fox and all that, and they also happen to have Gotham. But Gotham I'm caught up on, and I'm freaking loving, and that I can wax poetic on a little bit.
Because I only watched maybe the half of the first season, and then I just dropped off again. Not because I didn't like it, but just not enough time.
It is a show that got so much better once the second season rolled around, and just continued to get better from there. For me, it captures the complete insanity of the Batman universe. if you all you need to get over is the fact that Bruce Wayne, by the time this season, which I believe is season 5, rolls around, he's still only like 17 or 18. Like, if you can get over that fact and just focus on the fact that everything else is so beautifully fleshed out,
yeah,
that's all that matters. And their version of the Joker, which they're not even allowed to call the Joker because of DC's politics, they've had 2 versions of the Joker on the show, 2 identical twins. One was named Jeremy, I believe, and this one's Jeremiah. Mm-hmm. And Cameron Moynihan is the man who portrays him. And sorry, Jerome and Jeremiah. Jerome was the first one. Jeremiah is the current version. Jerome is closer to Scott Snyder's version of the Joker.
Okay,
where he has the the scarring on the mouth, and,
right.
and he's a little bit more sadistic. When we get to Jeremiah, Jeremiah's more of a Killing Joke.
Oh, wow.
Joker, which is a lot more reserved and yet menacing and maniacal. And in the most recent episode of the show, it's in its final season, so they're definitely very much in their end game.
Right, I heard that. Okay.
This entire season is essentially no man's land.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They're cut off. Gotham is completely cut off from the rest of the world. All of their bridges have been destroyed, and this is where we're being left off. And the most recent episode that aired had Jeremiah create a plot in which he found individuals that looked enough like Bruce Wayne's parents where he was able to surgically alter them and then plant Bruce in a scenario where he's stuck in the mansion with these 2 people who look just like his parents and a brainwashed by Mad Hatter, Alfred.
Oh, geez.
And there's bombs all around the mansion.
So, again, I only watched part of the first season. The kid, let's say he was 12.
Yeah.
In the first season. Is it the same actor growing up?
Yes, it is the same actor. And
okay.
David Matsoukas is his name, and he has just gotten better and better as the show has gone forward.
Now, is Donal Logue still in the show?
Yes, he is.
All right, great character actor.
Yep, Harvey Bullock. His Harvey Bullock is fantastic. Ben McKenzie's James Gordon just gets better and better. And their Oswald, their Penguin, and their Riddler, and their
the Penguin I remember because he was such a prominent character in that first season.
Definitely.
Now, do you think the show will end with Bruce becoming Batman?
I think it will. I don't think we're going to get a Smallville scenario where we only see the cowl, the cowl for 2 seconds and then it goes away. We're either going to see him become Batman or we're not.
Okay.
But honestly, I'd be perfectly okay with not, because the Bruce we're presented with here is enough of what the prototype for Batman is, where I'm perfectly okay with where we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, maybe in my retirement, I'll find the time to watch a lot of these shows because I would love to. I mean, all the shows I've mentioned, I enjoyed all of them. It's just a matter of, man, it's hard to fit it all in.
Yep.
So, yeah. All right. That's a great testimonial, my friend, because I dropped off of Gotham years ago now. So I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it.
And yet again, DC, not Marvel. My bad.
Oh, come on now.
I know. The other Netflix. Sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
No,
go ahead.
The other Netflix show that I've been watching is The Umbrella Academy.
And I've heard good things about that too.
Superb. And one of the best soundtracks for a television show I've experienced in recent memory. They do make some changes from the books to the screen, but that's to be expected. But the cast is terrific. Ellen Page as
she's a great actress.
Oh yeah, and she's perfect as the White Violin. Completely gets that character down beautifully. They take characters from the second volume of Umbrella Academy and introduce them a little bit earlier. These 2 mercenaries called Cha-Cha and Hazel. And Cha-Cha is played by Mary J. Blige. Oh, wow. Yeah. And they're amazing. Just everything about the show feels like the comic, and yet, they make some changes here and there because they have to. And the story they're telling feels a lot more streamlined than what we got in the comic book in some ways.
See, I've never read that book, so I have to read the books first before I try watching that show.
Yeah, I'd say so. That's a good way to go. Yeah, but overall, I'm very pleased with what's been brought forward, and they're almost guaranteed to be renewing this for a second season. This is a 10 episode first season, and it's start to finish. I enjoyed every single minute of it. It was spectacular.
Oh, tremendous. By the way, Murd, before I forget, I wanted to thank you because due to your recommendation, I read the first issue of 1975.
Yes, rendered in Arabic rather than Roman numerals.
Exactly. And, man, I ate that up.
Ooh, I thought you might, Chris.
Yeah. That was a nomination by you, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, the main character was for Best New Hero.
Joe Casey's the scribe on that, and what I loved about the book, I mean, obviously it has that 70s feel, but the narrative framing device of the disc jockey / boyfriend kind of taking through the story and the songs they're selecting. I mean, it had that feel that was so visceral for that time period, and plus it's got the wacky, undead ninjas and all the zaniness going on, and she's got like her enchanted tire iron, and really fun. Like I really enjoyed it, and I'll definitely hunt down subsequent issues. But good pick, my friend.
Oh.
Very good pick.
How'd you like it, Chris?
Yeah.
I hope you're firing up your Apple Music and listening to some of those soundtrack selections at the.
Well, yeah. I mean, I go back to why do I love Reservoir Dogs so much? It's because they had that sounds of the 70s music throughout the film. I mean, God.
Yeah.
I love that music. Go ahead.
Excellent soundtracks for comic book related media. Between Ian's praise for the Umbrella Academy and what we're talking about for 1975 here, I will say one of the shows I'm trying to keep up with. I'm trying to keep abreast of most of the Arrowverse shows. I should probably say the CW DC Comics-based ones, since they're not all in the same universe. I don't think Supergirl is technically the parallel Earth of Earth 38, and who knows where Black Lightning takes place. But I was going to give the praise to Black Lightning for continuing to have the best soundtrack of any superhero show on network television.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a great mix of music from a variety of decades, including some 70s soul grooves.
Oh. Well, Black Lightning is going to be one of my summer viewing projects because you and Shane so highly touted the first season.
And don't forget Peter the Rios. He was also very fond of the first season.
Glorious co-founder. So that's something I'm going to watch this summer because I can certainly at least get through the first season. Because when august personages like yourselves, soundly recommend a show, automatically have to check it out.
And speaking of soundtracks and decades,
a late 60s selection.
Earhart.
Little extra
I'm playing
tonight.
my air glockenspiel here now. I never get to do that.
Ian, that was a magnificent transition, my friend. Well done.
I sometimes you guys just make it easy. It is
You are a sultan of the segue, Ian.
Swing batter. It is time once again, ladies and gentlemen, for Muddle the Murd. And it's not even our penultimate. It is our current final submission for Muddle the Murd. So please get your submissions in for Muddle the Murd. Murd, where will they be submitting their submissions to, sir?
You can send them to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com and put Muddle the Murd in the subject line.
Yes. And please make sure that one question is pre-1970, one is 1970 to 2000, and one is 2000 to present. One should be DC, one should be Marvel, and one should be independent. And don't be multiple part, and don't be too snarky about it.
Perfect summation of the rules. Ian Jamie would be proud.
Indeed.
Here. Well, this particular submission is from listener Ryan Howard. And he has this to say before his actual questions. Greetings, geeks. This is Ryan Howard from the Digital Men Audio Podcast, and I've returned once again to try to muddle the murd. Maybe this time my questions will be yoink resistant.
We shall see, Ryan, we shall see. And if you do successfully muddle me, it'll be my pleasure to mail to you your prize, which is a Katie Cook drawing, or a full-color convention sketch, I believe, of Betty Page.
Wow.
Excellent. That's a good one. Well, this one starts off with a pre-1970 DC question.
Oh, my.
Before the 1943 Batman movie serials, Alfred was clean-shaven and overweight, but following the serial, his appearance was changed to reflect the actor who portrayed him. What was the name of the actor who portrayed Alfred in that serial?
Hate to seem petty, but I'm not sure if this should actually count. Because it's based on external media. You know, it's not based on actual comic books.
Point.
Yeah. Unless the name was used or factored into an actual comic book story, this might be out of bounds.
Well, on the bright side, he actually asked a second DC pre-1970 question, if that was the case.
Oh, all right. Good thinking, Ryan.
Just for our edification, what's the name of the actor?
The answer to that would be William Austin.
Okay.
I would not have come up with that.
But he makes a good historical link there to why they changed the appearance of Alfred.
That is true. That is true.
I was kind of hoping for an Earth 2, Earth 1 question as to what Alfred's original surname was. It was not Pennyworth. It was actually Beagle.
Interesting. Huh. I did not know that.
I just got a chill right up my spine.
Well, he did have a backup. And that question is as follows. In February of 1940, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster produced a short comic for a mainstream publication where Superman ended World War II in 2 pages. Which magazine was this published in?
Which magazine?
Good question.
Yes, that is. And that is absolutely legitimate comics. Action would be a little bit too obvious. I don't think it would have been Superman either, but I'm trying to think what other comics. I'm going to say More Fun Comics.
Chris, any idea?
World's Finest?
Look Magazine.
Oh,
wow.
Good one.
Look. You got it right.
Well, that's
you got it wrong.
Good for him to describe it as publication too, because it's not a true comic book. But as long as it was a comic story, it doesn't matter if it was appearing in a standard comic magazine; it still counts.
That is true. All right, his official question 2 will be Marvel 1970 to 2000. In Punisher's first solo miniseries in 1986, what was the name of the organization that helped Frank Castle escape from Rikers Island and funded his war on crime?
I have never read this. I've never been much of a Punisher fan. Okay, Chris, I'll certainly give you second pickings of this, but...
this is the classic Mike Zeck drawn miniseries. Stephen Grant was the writer. It's excellent, especially the opening issues when he's in prison. What the hell was the name of that group? It was like a typical 80s vigilante organization sounding name.
Okay.
Dang it. I'm going to take a wild guess, Ian. The Front or something like that.
No, you're a little bit close. Murd, what's your official answer?
I was going to say the Sons of Justice.
Nope. Chris was right on it being only 2 words, and one of them being the Trust.
The Trust. That's right. Okay.
Well, darn.
Murd, you're on dangerous ground here, my friend.
You're well on your way to a Katie Cook Betty Page, my friend. I think this is Ryan's 3rd attempt, too, so this is a long time in coming.
He may have gotten you here, because this is yet another question that I think Chris would know the answer to, but I'm not quite sure you do, Murd, but we shall see. This is Independent 2000 to present. In Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips' The Fade Out,
Masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece.
Screenwriter Charlie Parrish is unable to write and has to use his blacklisted friend Gil as a ghostwriter for his scripts. Why is Charlie unable to write?
Dipsomania.
An outstanding answer, but an incorrect one. Chris, do you have an answer?
If I remember correctly, it's because he has PTSD from his service in World War II.
You are correct, sir. PTSD from World War II. However, Chris got it, not Murd. So you, sir, have been muddled.
So I have been. So congratulations, Ryan Howard. You sent this one over the fences. And your victory is all the sweeter because in order to send you your Katie Cook image, I first have to drive all the way out to the CGS studio, where I am currently not, but where the drawing currently is, to pick it up and then put it in the U.S. mail.
Leave it to Ryan Howard to hit a home run.
Yep, I know. We're referring, of course, to the recently retired Philadelphia Philly of the same name. No relation, I assume.
I assume not.
Well, I want to give him kudos for selecting The Fade Out. That's I've praised that book, endlessly on the air. It's, for me, one of the best things the classic team of Brubeck and Phillips has ever done. It's so good. If you love 1940s noir, throw in some Hollywood land type feel, you're going to eat that book right up. It's amazing. And I think they're working on a bit of a sequel to it as well, if I remember correctly. So,
very good.
Good questions.
Yes, they were.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's that on the muddling. What else we got, gentlemen?
Hopefully people send in more questions because I so thoroughly relish these Muddle the Murd interludes we have. So,
yes.
And I think this time you were less muddled than I was, Chris.
I should have remembered the trust. That was a good question.
You guys have to send me more Muddle the Murds so I can have more segues.
Well, I got to tell you something, Ian. There's an art to the segue. And you are a maestro, sir.
It's one of my favorite things to do in this world.
A man has to dream. Terrific. Mm-hmm. What else you got, brothers?
Trying to think.
To be honest, Southern Bastards and Muddle the Murd were the only things I was bringing to the table this time around.
Another thing I can bring up a couple other comic-related items.
Sure. Go ahead.
I got from Tomorrow's in my last shipment, so about a month ago, and I always praise Tomorrow's whenever I can. This is a especially fascinating publication. It's one of their sort of their one-shot, bound publications. It's Kirby and Lee Stuff Said: The Complex Genesis of the Marvel Universe, its creator's own words. This is Jack Kirby Collector number 75. So this is like a fascinating work, like investigative reporting in a sense, because I think I'm sure it's John Morrow who was involved. Yeah, it's John Morrow. He's the one who researched, wrote, and edited the book. Basically, he's collected all of these primary sources, both quotes and visuals, to try to break down from the inception of the Marvel Universe forward who basically did what. And as we did our Kirby Spotlights a couple years ago, we've talked about this many times on the air, the ongoing controversy about who deserves more credit, so to speak, when it comes to these creations. And what Morrow's done here, this must have been an exhaustive bit of research he did here. He just takes you to the entire history of their partnership throughout the 1960s, and he talks about influences, and it's just exhaustive, and I mean that in the best possible way. And he has quotes from each man talking about their perspectives on various issues, and he's got primary sources of like typed scripts, pay stubs. Wow. I mean, it's amazing. And he's just taking you through, who said what and who did what when it came to these creations. It's absolutely fascinating. I haven't read through it in detail. I've just sort of skimmed it initially. But if you're a fan of the history, especially of the Lee Kirby controversy, you got to pick this book up. It's first of all, it's beautifully laid out. I mean, Marv did a wonderful job in terms of the layout and with the people, whoever he worked with on it. But just in terms of the sheer depth I mean, this is a feast, and I highly recommend it.
It sounds fantastic.
It's called Stuff Said. So, I also wanted to talk. I just read the past couple of days the latest issues of Captain America and the Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Let me tell you, and I've been reading about Coates' run on Black Panther since the beginning, but the story he's doing now, and I like that Marvel seems to be giving a lot of room on it. He's basically telling an epic cosmic saga about T'Challa seemingly stranded in this future where Wakandans, astronauts have colonized much of the known galaxy and created like this totalitarian empire, which is ruled by a version of Eric Killmonger. And T'Challa is part of a slave rebellion where the slaves have no memories of who they are because part of what this Wakandan interstellar empire has done is kind of like stolen people's identities and their knowledge and made it part of sort of their methods of control of this society. And it's all about how this version of T'Challa, it may actually be the T'Challa we know. That's still sort of being played out, which is part of the fun. How they're trying to realize who these people are and how the T'Challa that is a slave who's now part of this rebellion seems to be like this sort of messianic figure, may be the actual real Black Panther. It is gripping, just how Coates has laid out this whole universe and the politics behind the story. Still unfolding. It's been going on now for quite some time. I am devouring it. It's so well done. It's just an interesting new take on just sort of the whole world of the Black Panther, and I can't recommend it enough. And Coates is also writing the latest volume of Captain America with striking covers by Alex Ross, and I'm also really digging that storyline because he's well versed in the history of Captain America, and he's bringing back certain characters from the Brubaker run, for example. I won't spoil it, but it returns to one of the classic themes, which is Steve Rogers a symbol of and sort of minion of the U.S. government, or really a symbol of the American dream and of the American people and of the country? And again, we find him in a situation where, and there's also the fallout from Hydra and all that story when the doppelganger is running around with his face and so forth. But it's Steve trying to sort of recapture his sense of self and his faith, and how he's also now being targeted by the government for a crime that's being pinned on him. I won't go into what that's about, but it's so well done. And again, Coates' grasp of the characters, their history, their interpersonal relationships is spot on. And I talked before about I'm getting more and more into Marvel Unlimited, but caveat: books like this, I'm not waiting for the damn digital release 6 months later. I want to read them as soon as they come out because they're that good. So, two other titles I really want to praise.
Now Adam Kubert's doing the art on
he did
Captain
the
America?
latest issue. It's so stunning.
Wow. Oh,
he did the latest issue. I just read it yesterday.
Okay, now that really has me intrigued. I mean, I love Coates' writing to begin with, but to have Adam Kubert back on Captain America for the first time in years, that makes me very intrigued.
And to be honestly, even I don't know if he's doing subsequent issues. I can't answer that off the top of my head, but I'm sure you could check that out. But yeah, his artwork is as good as ever.
According to Marvel, he did issue 7, so I'm hoping that means he's doing subsequent issues in this arc. But who knows?
Yeah, no, it's those are two titles I highly recommend if you're a Marvel fan. That they're both just the top of their game, and the same writer, and Coates is magnificent.
Excellent.
I have nothing bad to say about his scripting.
And speaking of Captain America, in the real life, Captain America was an absolute gentleman at the Academy Awards. Just bringing it back to that for a second. One of my favorite moments of the entire show was when he stood up and helped Regina King onto the stage as she had a very flowy dress and she was about to trip on herself. But Chris Evans got up, helped her onto the stage, and sat right back down like the gentleman that he is and the true Captain America that he is.
Well, let me tell you, Evans is a hell of an actor. He's done a lot of work that people may not be as familiar with. I'm not even talking about the Human Torch, which he was also great at. But the guy has range and he's got chops. So I'm looking forward to his career as it unfolds after he puts down the shield. So,
as am I.
Kind of hoping he directs a Marvel movie, to be honest. Like, even if he's no longer playing the role of Captain America, I'd love to see what he'd be able to do behind the camera.
Well, I think I'd heard in interviews that he was interested in directing.
Yeah.
So, well, look, to go back to the MCU for a moment, his portrayal of Steve Rogers is so sublime, and again, you got the casting in these films for the most part is so spot on, and watching him play that character and that character develop through the various appearances in his own films and the Avengers movies, even like the funny Spider-Man stuff he did, like when he's doing the public service announcements for Detention Hall, and I mean, he so has Steve Rogers down, the innate dignity of the character, the integrity, the decency, but also like there's that. He's not a yes man, and they showed that in Civil War, for example, and that's so important to Steve Rogers too. And you can't forget that he is not a lackey, he's not obsequious, he's not a minion of the government. So he's been one of all the characters they portrayed so well. He's one of my favorite performances out of all of those, screen renderings. I'm going to miss him whenever he exits that portrayal. So, well, of course, we don't know what's going to happen in the next Avengers film. So. We'll see.
Has he not announced that he's retiring as Captain America pretty darn soon, though?
I don't know. Ian, have you heard anything?
He's said he's done, but he also said he could possibly do more. So who the hell knows? So many, and on the same thing's been said of Thor as well. That Hemsworth said he was done, and then he had so much fun on Ragnarok that he may very well be willing to come back for another one. So I think it completely depends on contract, where their career is leading them, and what's up next. I will say though that. It's actually happening the day after we're recording this, so we won't be able to touch on it until our next comic talk. But apparently, a new trailer for Dark Phoenix is coming out tomorrow. So,
when is that film debuting?
That comes out on June 7th. So that's
okay.
Yep,
right.
That's. I hope it's good, but
Who's directing it, Ian?
It's a first-time director. It's the directorial debut of Simon Kinberg.
Okay.
Simon Kinberg was the producer of a bunch of the X-Men films, but he's never directed, and that kind of has me worried.
Okay, but I'm excited for this, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'd almost forgotten about that. Because they so butchered that in X-Men 3 that I'm hoping they'll do, both the cosmic grandeur and the sheer humanity and pathos of that story justice.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean,
prepare to be disappointed.
Well, I love when Murd gets cynical. It's fantastic.
Well, I'm kind of in Murd's boat, to be entirely honest with you. I mean, this movie has been delayed a long time.
Well, that's never a good sign usually.
Yeah.
Now, Hugh Jackman's not in it, right?
From what we know, he is not.
All right, so that's a negative right off the bat.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I'll certainly go see it. We'll review it on the air.
Oh, sure.
It's the younger characters they introduced in the new reality, right?
Yes.
Right. It's set in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which hopefully means there's at least a little bit more Jubilee, because that is still the thing that is my biggest pet peeve about Apocalypse, is that you introduce a Jubilee like that, you cut the one scene that she's supposed to be amazing in, which is the mall scene, which I still think is better than the entire movie, and you just completely underuse her for like the fourth time, because I feel like they've introduced Jubilee in every single one of these movies in one way or another.
I don't think they've even mentioned her name on screen yet.
You may be right about that, Murd.
Is McAvoy playing Xavier in this film?
Yes, he is.
Oh, that's good. He's a great actor.
Every actor is returning for this that played them previously in the others. So Evan Peters is back as Quicksilver, Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, Nicholas Hoult as Beast, James McAvoy as Xavier, Jennifer Lawrence for definitely her last time as Mystique, because she has better things to do.
Oh, she is returning. Okay.
She is, yes. And Sophie Turner as Phoenix, along with Michael Fassbender as Magneto.
Right.
Well, Fassbender's great. All right. Hey, I'm definitely going to give it a shot. It's funny because as you bring up this topic, one of my favorite X-Men films is Days of Future Past.
Same here.
Which I think is superb. And now Bryan Singer directed that.
Yes.
And did he direct Apocalypse too?
I think he did. I'll have to double check that.
Yeah, because I was so disappointed by that film because I'm a huge fan of Oscar Isaac. And I thought he was just wasted in that movie.
I agree with you.
Basically. And that film was just so flat in comparison to Days of Future Past, which had such heart to it. It was such a great narrative. But of course, Days of Future Past also had a key role with both Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman, which elevated that film for me. But I don't know.
Bryan Singer did indeed direct Apocalypse. Bryan Singer is also a name that you probably will not be hearing much from.
It's funny you mention that because I've always admired his work. Yeah. What the hell happened on Bohemian Rhapsody?
There have been rumors about Bryan Singer's sexual proclivities for years. And it finally caught up to him. Let's just put it that way. And
okay, we don't want to rumor monger because we don't really know. But,
essentially, also he apparently was a horror to work with on the set, and got into fights with Rami Malek on a regular basis, and that basically led to him being removed from the project.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that because I've admired, some of his films quite a bit.
Yeah.
Rami Malek was amazing in that movie. My God,
he's easily the best part because to be 100% honest with you, the rest of it felt like the biopic that Walk Hard makes fun of.
I love Queen, and it was great seeing the music, hearing the music, and the performances.
Sure.
But you're right. It was pretty much paint by numbers. Typical biopic, but I so love the subject matter, and his performance was so heartfelt. And even as always, they change things around and make up things that didn't happen and all that. But it was the music, which is for me is just timeless, and his performance really elevated that movie. And I thought the guys playing the rest of the musicians were great too.
Oh yeah.
So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. What are you guys doing over there? You don't want none of this, Freddie.
All right. You guys got anything else, or we shot our bolt?
I think for the most part, the bolt has been shot.
All right.
Can I conclude us here by announcing for the first time on the podcast? It's been done elsewhere on the internet, but the polls are now officially open for the final voting for the Comic Geek Speak Best of 2018 awards. Now, we give our sincere thanks to all of you out there in CGS land who have participated in the nominations process by sending in your slates of nominees. But now those slates have been finalized. You can go to thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com and go to the Comics Talk Community On Topic Forum. And at the very top of that page, you will find a thread entitled The CGS Best of 2018 Awards, The Final Vote. Click on that. You will see the complete ballot of nominees for each of the 16 categories, and you'll also find guidelines for submitting your ballot to vote for which nominee in each category you think deserves to be honored as the best of 2018 via Comic Geek Speak. So check that out and get those ballots in by end of day on Sunday, March 10th.
Oh, plenty of time. All right. Hope we get a good turnout, Murray, because you put a lot of work into it, and it's really appreciquted.
No, thank you, Chris. And I appreciate the listeners for doing their part in getting those votes in. We've already got, even before this nomination, this announcement, quite a few ballots. I think we're going to see even better turnout for the voting than for the nominations.
I'm glad to hear that.
Sounds good to me. I wanted to bring up, I actually re-listened in full earlier today to episode 989, which we brought up on the nomination show, the spotlight on Hawkman and Hawkgirl. And I am reminded yet again of, to put it lightly, the shit show that is Hawkman's backstory.
But doesn't Peter masterfully navigate it, though, Ian?
Beautifully.
It's a master class in Spotlight episodes.
It really is. It really is. And it was wonderful hearing Jamie's voice again in any fashion.
Always.
Yep. And finally, I'll bring up that a new episode of the Comic Timing Podcast has been released for the first time in a while. Just this past Sunday, I got a chance to record with Mr. Raphael Suhu and my good friend Chris, and we went further into a topic that I discussed here on this very show, which is the closing of St. Mark's Comics.
Ooh.
And also going into what we feel could possibly be the future of comic shops and the type that we prefer over the type that we do not.
I can't wait to hear this.
It's episode 195, and you can find it over at comictiming.net or on your favorite podcatcher of choice. So iTunes, Android, wherever the hell else you want to get it.
Terrific, Ian. Excellent.
Oh, and so we also give a plug to another podcast as part of our extended family here, the Watchmen Minute.
Oh, yes.
Because several CGS geeks, including Ian and myself, have made recent appearances on that podcast. It's run by, co-hosted by one of our listeners, Eric Nash, who goes by Lucky Mustard on our forums. And it's part of the Minute Movies, the podcasting phenomenon, which is a series of podcasts in which break down well-known popular films by 1 minute of running time per episode. Like each episode breaks down in minute detail 1 minute of film. And so Eric and his co-host Paul got a few of us to participate. If you go to watchmanminute.libsyn.com, you'll find all the episodes that they've done so far posted there for your listening pleasure. So if you go to minute number 151, that's the one in which I participate. Then we get our, as Chris calls him, our glorious co-founder Peter Rios on episodes 152 and 153. Shane jumps in at minute number 154. And Ian, you appeared sometime before the rest of us.
Yes, I did. I was on, I believe, minutes 116, 117, and 118, if memory serves.
All right.
I'm continuing to scroll furiously to see if it does.
Yeah, I was definitely on 116 and 118. That's what the Googles tells me. So I'm going to assume that that's correct. And
and it is. I just got there. Yep, 116, 17, and 18.
Excellent. And then immediately after me was Mike
What's the address for that again? I'm sorry.
It's watchmanminute.libsyn.com.
All right. Thank you.
Fantastic. All righty. Murd, we ready to roll out?
All right, I'll do the Shane thing once again.
Okay.
We're going to get that guy back on here with us eventually. You wait and see.
Yes, we
Indeed.
will.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can send it to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. You can send your Muddle and Murd submissions to the same place. If you'd like to leave a voicemail, you can call 267-702-6642. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle there is @comicgeekspeak. You can visit thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com, where you can not only find out how to submit your votes for the Best of 2018 awards, but you can also leave feedback on this and many other episodes of our podcast, and participate in fun little discussions with your fellow CGS listeners and comic nerds at that website. We'd like to thank everyone who has donated monetarily to support the podcast in the past. We really appreciate it. The show would not be what it is today without your help. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.